Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 24 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers for week number 5 of the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. While you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week 5 quarterback and tight end rankings for the 2023 fantasy football season. We begin with the S tier at the quarterback position at number 1 with Patrick Mahomes, quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota this week. Now, Patrick Mahomes had an absolutely disasterful performance last week up against the Jets in prime time with just 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. You know that things go wrong when Zach Wilson outplays you. Ultimately, though, this is a huge bounce back spot up against a atrocious Minnesota Vikings defense in Minnesota. I expect Mahomes to hop back on the saddle and finish as the QB1 on the week. At number 2, we have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. Quarterback won last week up against the Miami Dolphins, throwing the ball just 25 times for 320 yards and a grand total of 5 touchdowns in that game. Currently the quarterback 3 on the season. The Jaguars defense is pretty Now, the fact that this game is in London does worry me just a little bit because the Jaguars have been there for over a week at this point since they played the game last week up against the Atlanta Falcons in London. So it does worry me that the Jaguars won't be as jet-lagged and maybe that defense hums a little bit more, but ultimately Josh Allen is a must-start quarterback and the matchup as a whole is good. I just worry slightly about the fact that it's in London. At number 3, we got Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins going up against the New York Football Giants this week at home in Miami. Now, last week up against the Buffalo Bills was definitely a down game for Tua as the quarterback 18, but ultimately there's a big difference between the Bills defense and the Giants defense. The Bills have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and the Giants defense is made out of paper mache. Ultimately, I think Tua Tagovailoa has a huge game here with the upside of finishing as the QB1 on the week. At number 4, we move to Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the LA Rams in LA. Quarterback 19-4, 9-6 over the first 4 games of the season. Obviously, outside of that game up against the Patriots, Jalen Hurts has looked really solid. He has one of the best O-lines and wide receiver cores in the National Football League. We all know once they get to the goal line, we know Jalen Hurts is getting that rushing touchdown. Hurts has a ton of upside here against the Rams, and this one could be a back-and-forth affair based upon how the Eagles defense has played and how the LA Rams offense has definitely been surprising, plus the fact that it appears that Cooper Kupp is going to be playing with very little limitations. To close out the S tier, we got Kirk Thuggins of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Minnesota. Now, to start off the season, Kirk Cousins was on fire, NBA Jam-style quarterback 9-2-4 last week up against the Panthers in a soft serve cupcake matchup. Kirk Cousins shit the bed, right? Sure, he threw for 2 touchdowns, but he threw 2 interceptions and finishes the quarterback 22 on the week. I think this matchup has all of the makings of a Rock'em Sock'em Robots affair where it's a high-scoring, back-and-forth affair, and I think Kirk Cousins is going to flourish in a big way in this spot. Moving down to the A-tier quarterbacks, quarterback 6 through 10. At number 6, we have Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Now, realistically, the Baltimore Ravens should beat the ever-living shit out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers just got danced on by CJ Stroud and friends in Houston. But this is an AFC North division rivalry matchup, and I think it will end up being closer than many people think. At the end of the day, though, this guy has been a locked and loaded top 10 quarterback over the last 3 weeks. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense definitely looks more brittle than I thought that they would. Again, I think this one will end up being close, and while I think the Ravens are levels above the Pittsburgh Steelers, I still think the Steelers might either cover in this one or just outright win the game. So Lamar Jackson should be just fine, though, at the end of the day. 4 touchdowns last week, something light up against a stout Browns defense. At number 7, we have Anthony Richardson of the Colts going up against the Atlanta Titans at home in Indianapolis. When this guy plays a full game, or at least almost a full game, like he did in week number 1, this man is dominant 50 Shades of Grey style. 3 touchdowns last week, 0 interceptions. If you drafted Anthony Richardson super late in your fantasy football draft, then you must just be erect waking up every single Sunday, knowing the team you could have built if you waited on quarterback and have Anthony Richardson, who has the upside to be a top 3 quarterback in any single matchup. Now, the Titans defense is awful against the pass. But we all know Anthony Richardson gets his quote-unquote nut off by rushing the ball. So the Titans are pretty good against the rush, so I do worry about that aspect of the game for Richardson. At the end of the day, though, the upside is very clearly there, and he should be a locked and loaded top 8 quarterback on the week. Moving to quarterback number 8, Jared Goff, the Goffinator of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Carolina Panthers at home in Detroit. Last week was definitely a down game for Goff, even though they ended up easily beating the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football, quarterback 21 on the week. But the Panthers defense is banged up to oblivion. They are not the defense that I expected them to be entering into the season. I think that Goff has a bounce back spot here. I don't necessarily expect him to finish as like a top 3 quarterback, but would it be shocking if he did so? No, it definitely hurts that it seems like Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't going to play. Again, while I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, they still have enough weapons there to get it done, again, against a Carolina Panthers defense that definitely isn't amazing. At number 9, we have Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. Jordan Love has only had 1 game so far where he's finished outside the top 12 at the quarterback position. The Raiders is one of the easiest matchups for a quarterback to go up against. Jordan Love was the quarterback 12 last week up against the Lions, through 2 pretty bad interceptions, if I'm being honest with you, in that game. But again, I've talked about this a bunch in this video. This really does feel like the prime spot to just hop back on the saddle up against a awful, atrocious, Dick Cheese Raiders defense. At number 10, we have CJ Stroud going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Falcons defense is awful, but at this point, I think it's safe to say they are mediocre, because when they go up against good offenses, it's not like they're going to be able to lock the Texans down completely. CJ Stroud over the last 3 games has been a top 13 quarterback in every single game and has yet to throw an interception on the season. We already know that's going to show up on the screen against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. It's going to be like, CJ Stroud has yet to throw an interception in his career. This is the record, this, that, and the other thing. And then I swear to God, 3 fucking seconds later, he's going to throw a pick. We've seen this story every time. You remember Goff? Goff hasn't thrown an interception in X amount of days. And then fucking 15 seconds later, Goff throws an interception. We know it's coming for CJ Stroud, but man, has he looked good. Nico Cousin, let's go bowling. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, this wide receiver core, as well as obviously Dalton Schultz, the tight end in Houston, has been playing very, very well. If you guys have enjoyed this far, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Moving now to the B tier quarterbacks, 11 through 12. At number 11, we got T-Law, Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Now, I think if you are looking from a pure safety standpoint, Brock Purdy is much safer than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has definitely had a down year. Quarterback 8, 32, 19, and 16. We've been talking about this all week, and basically over the last 2 weeks, that this Jacksonville Jaguars offense appears to be in some sort of a fucking funk, right? They feel like they're just off their game, right? This was an offense that a lot of people in the offseason, myself included, were giving the metaphorical gawk gawk 9,000 to, right? This was an offense that a lot of people liked. This was a team that people thought could make it far in the playoffs, maybe even a team that potentially plays in the Super Bowl, right? They haven't really looked like it this season outside the first half up against the Colts. I know they beat the Atlanta Falcons, but again, it wasn't like an impressive victory. It's not like the fucking Falcons are these world beaters. The Bills' defense is tough. I just saw it last week up against my Dolphins. Now, they are severely banged up. They are injured in a big way. I think Lawrence has a decent game. But again, it seems like, even with all these weapons, Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, ETN, Bigsby, something's just not clicking. I think once it starts clicking, we're going to be excited that we have Trevor Lawrence. But right now, nothing appears to be fucking clicking. At quarterback number 12, Big Cock Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Bad matchup for Big Cock Brock, but at the end of the day, this guy's been the definition of consistency all season long. Quarterback 13 on the season, quarterback 10, 23, 13, and 11. Again, is this an ideal matchup? Fuck no, baby! On Sunday Night Football up against Dallas, but again, Brock Purdy has all the weapons to his disposal to, even in tougher matchups, he can make up for it in yak yards, right? You don't have to throw the ball 70 yards down the field to throw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. Next up, we move into the C tier, beginning with quarterback 13 through quarterback 15. Number 13, we got Joshua Dobbs of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at home in Arizona. Outside of that game against the Commanders in week 1, he's been the quarterback 5, 16, and 8. This is a Bengals team that is, if they lose to the Cardinals, dead. I'm talking about in the fucking grave. That dead. And I'm not talking about how in the WWE, how Undertaker would get out of the fucking coffin. It's like, oh my God, we're back, right? They're dead. Dead on arrival. You cannot lose this game to the Cardinals, and I think they might do that. Joshua Dobbs has looked great. He has rushing upside. He's had over 40 rushing yards in all 3 of the last 3 games. This Bengals defense is very hit or miss week in and week out, and they might be a big miss this week up against Arizona. Hollywood Brown, Michael Wilson, old man Zach Ertz. I know this isn't a wet dream team, right? You're not going to sleep thinking, oh man, I'm so excited to watch the Arizona Cardinals and Hollywood Brown and Josh Dobbs play, right? No one's thinking that. I don't even think most Cardinals fans are thinking that. But this is a team that right now could be 3-1, could have beat the Commanders, should have beaten the Giants, beat Dallas. Now, obviously, you're not beating the fucking 49ers, but yeah, this is a team that is severely overperforming, and I think up against the Bengals, they are going to be very live to win this game. Daniel Jones, quarterback 14, going up against the Dolphins in Miami. Now, outside of that game up against the Arizona Cardinals, where the team finally started clicking in the second half, the Giants have been a complete and utter dumpster fucking fire. This week, they get the Dolphins, whose defense couldn't stop a goddamn nosebleed. As a Dolphins fan, I want to see Daniel Jones getting hit, getting the ever-living shit beat out of him, because that offensive line is dick cheese. That offensive line is atrocious. And for what Evan Neal said about how the fans are a bunch of burger flippers, go fuck yourself, pal. You need to learn how to block, because soon you're going to be working at McDonald's too, pal. Daniel Jones might get fucking plowed out in this one, but I think late in the game, the Dolphins are going to be up. They're going to be laying a pipe for that ass like they're a plumber, and Daniel Jones going to throw like 2 garbage time touchdowns. Maybe run one in and have a pretty solid fantasy football day. Again, this Dolphins defense is dick cheese. At number 15, we have Matthew Stafford going up against the Philadelphia Eagles at home in LA. Cooper Kupp is back. Great. And this Eagles defense, a little bit suspect. I think that Matthew Stafford's going to have a hell of a game on Sunday up against the Eagles. Again, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell. This is an offense that, even against better defenses, is going to be a problem. Now, the fact that Matthew Stafford is banged up, he did have a hip injury, does scare me enough not to rank him higher. Because if he was like 100% healthy, and again, if Cooper Kupp is really playing all the snaps that they're potentially talking about, then Stafford does have huge upside again, because this Eagles defense hasn't been the Eagles defense most expected going into the season. Moving into the D tier, quarterback 16 through 19. This is the range where it officially starts like, if you have to play one of these guys, you're probably fucked, right? I get it. There's 4 teams on bye. It is what it is. But you're probably fucked. Quarterback 29, 17, 18, and 19. Dak has not once this season really looked all that good. Now, against the Jets, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I'll give it to him there. But outside of that, Dak has been pretty bad, if we're being honest with you. He's yet to throw over 300 yards this season. I know, Nick, the defense is absolutely eviscerating the other offense. He's not getting a lot of chances to play that well. I get it. I do get it. But this week, he's going up against one of the best defenses in the National Football League. I don't think this is going to be some breakout party for Dak Prescott. At number 17, the MILF Hunter, Zach Wilson, going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Now, this might be one of the easiest matchups, if not the easiest matchup for a quarterback to have in fantasy football. Last week, up against the middle-of-the-road Chiefs defense, Zach Wilson looked surgical. Quarterback 14 on the week. But the problem is me at least, I have zero belief that Zach Wilson can do it in back-to-back weeks. Now, obviously, this is the matchup to do it, right? This is the wet dream matchup. This is the matchup where you go to sleep on Saturday night, Zach Wilson wakes up with drool all over his pillow because he's drooling, imagining how easy it's going to be to dick down the Denver Broncos defense. The question is, can he do it again? He's got somewhat the weapons to do it, right? Garrett Wilson and then a ragtag group of randos like McCole Hardman and Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Again, you don't need much against the Broncos because that defense is soft as baby shit. So, do I like Zach Wilson this week? 100%. But would I go out and say, like, Zach Wilson is a lock to be great against the Broncos? No, because we have seen absolutely zero consistency out of Zach Wilson his whole career. At number 18, we have Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Now, Joe Burrow himself has said, this is the healthiest I've felt in weeks, and he's off the injury report with the calf injury. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if it's the calf, if it's mental, if it's both, but Joe Burrow has been bad. 3 points week 1. Last 2 weeks, 5 and 9 points. That's bad. And obviously, he's playing the fucking Cardinals. I get the Cardinals defense is soft. The Cardinals defense is bad. This is a game, though. You're traveling to Arizona. Probably going to be no Tee Higgins, so it's going to be Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. Joe Burrow, you have to win this game, son. You have to win this game, pal. You have to. Now, I'm a Joe Burrow fan. Do I think that this whole season is down the drain for Burrow's fantasy value? No. No, I don't. But in terms of, for the NFL, the Bengals are, like I said, dead on arrival if you lose this one. Now, I know you get Seattle next week. That's a good matchup. Great matchup. But if you don't win this one, you're fucked. Sorry to say it. They're fucked. You can't have one win through 5 games and make the playoffs in this AFC. Now, I'm rooting for Joe Burrow. I hope he bounces back. But my confidence in that, 0. I'm more confident in Zach Wilson than Joe Burrow. How crazy is that? At number 19, we got Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson going up against the New York Jumbo Jets at home in Mile High. Russell Wilson has looked reinvigorated this season. He looks a lot better than he did at this point last season. So it's like Sean Payton has fixed some things, but the team is still a disaster. That defense sucks. He's going up against a tough match, though, right? He beat down on, or looked good against the Raiders. Looked good against the Commanders. Struggled against a not-so-hot Dolphins defense, and then looked good against the Bears. This is by far and away the best defense he has played. I think Russell Wilson will be very start-worthy, very live to have good games, maybe even the number 1 quarterback performance in certain games, right? He was the quarterback 3 against the Commanders. He's got some decent matchups. Like, he's playing the Vikings. He's playing the Chargers, the Lions. He gets the Chargers twice in this stretch of games down the stretch of the season. So, obviously, Russell Wilson can get it done for fantasy. But this is far from the game where I think Russell Wilson gets it done. Before we move on into the rest of the quarterbacks and then the tight end position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friend star sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a great offer for you guys today, and they are the best place to play NFL Pick'em in the whole entire universe. They've got for you guys Tua higher than half a total yard. As long as Tua goes for over half of a total yard, that could be running or passing, this pick will hit. And then all you have to do is match it with one other pick. So we're going to go ahead and go with Travis Etienne higher than 63.5 rushing yards. I really think the Bills defense is pretty soft against the run. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to look to run a lot with Travis Etienne. So if this pick does hit, we'll get 3 times our entry fee. If you want to go ahead and add a third pick, it will be 6 times. 4 picks will be 10 times, and 5 picks will be 20 times your entry fee. If you are new to Underdog and want to do the Pick'em contest, make sure you live in one of the states that are listed on your screen right now. And if you are new, make sure you use promo code Notorious for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. You deposit 100, they give an additional 100. If you do 50, an additional 50, 25, an additional 25. The minimum deposit on Underdog is $10. Again, using either promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description. If you have a gambling problem, please make sure that you call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back on into things, we move to the E tier, beginning with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Eats World of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G-Spot cleared off that concussion. Jimmy Guap's been pretty good. Quarterback 12, 31, and 11 this season. And let's be honest with you, he probably played a lot of that game against the Steelers with a concussion, so making it even more impressive, right, that the guy... Now, again, I'm not trying to make fun of concussions. I hope that everyone understands that, right? As someone who watched Tua look like he was going to fucking die out there, scary. Concussions are scary. He balled out against the Steelers. Not really. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but balled for fantasy. Look decent. Packers matchup isn't great. Again, if you have to start Jimmy Garoppolo, you're probably fucked this week anyways. Number 21, we got Ryan Tannehill going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. I don't think at any point in this season, Ryan Tannehill has really looked that good except for against the Chargers. He's just been below average. He's not been the Tannehill that we were used to over the last couple of years, but it feels like he's a little bit better than he was last year. I don't know. I would say that his years of being a starting quarterback in the NFL are probably numbered. Like, if he makes it through all of this season without Malik Willis or Mayo Man ending up taking his job, then this is probably his last year as a starter, unless, of course, someone goes down on a future team. Then he gets to play, right? He's a backup from after this year going forward, in my opinion. He hasn't looked great. Colts defense, pretty average. Fine matchup, but again, do you really want to trust Ryan Tannehill on a run-heavy offense? Fuck no, baby. Moving next to quarterback 22, Bryce Young, the short king himself. Bryce Young has yet to finish inside the top 20 at the quarterback position, and I don't think that's a record that's going to be broken this week up against the Lions defense that seems to have been improved week in and week out. Quarterback 27 in what might only be described as one of the best matchups last week against the Vikings. So, I think there's going to be brighter days ahead for Bryce Young, but right now he's a sit. At number 23, Mac Jones going up against the Saints. Mac Jones is really only start-worthy when the Patriots are going up against the worst possible defenses in the NFL, and that is the exact opposite this week against the Saints. At number 24, small hands, Kenny Pickett. He says he's good to go. He's going to start week 5. Makes no sense. I feel like I was sold a lie on the Steelers offense in preseason. The Steelers offense was looking really good, and in the regular season, they have been terrible. Moving now to the tight end position, beginning at number 1 in the S tier, we have, bitch, you guessed it, Travis Kelce, tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Last week was a bit of a down week for Travis Kelce, tight end 8 on the week up against the Jets. But at the end of the day, you are starting Travis Kelce as the tight end 1 in my rankings every single week, even when he's on his bye. He's probably going to be ranked tight end number 1. He's that fucking good. He's that good. Tight end 5, 2, and 8 in the 3 games he's played this season. Again, great matchup against the Vikings. At number 2, we have TJ Hawkinson. 1 down game last week as the tight end number 29, but I'm not going to get my panties in a bunch after 1 down game for Hawkinson. Prior to that, tight end 3, 1, and 6. Currently the tight end 2 on the season. Again, great matchup. That could be very fun, high-scoring game against the Chiefs. At number 3, we have Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Tight end 3, 21, and 2 in his 3 starts on the season. Again, last week, I know there was a lot of people starting to worry, oh my God, against the Colts, Mark Andrews wasn't amazing. Nick, should we panic? This, that, and the other thing. And then he comes out last week, right, and scores 2 touchdowns. Another one of those guys that's a must start at the tight end position every single week. One of the best tight ends in the NFL. Again, I don't feel like I need to go super crazy in depth with these guys, though, because we all know we're starting them. In the A tier, we move to Sam Laporta of the Lions going up against the Panthers. Down game last week for him is the tight end 17, but he still continues to get 5 or more targets in every single game. Had his true breakout huge performance up against the Atlanta Falcons in week 3 with 84 yards and a touchdown. Tight end 3 on the season. Good matchup against Carolina. At number 5, we have Eazy-E Evan Ingram of the Jags going up against the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. The Bills defense is terrible up against the tight end. Great against every other position, though. Top 7 tight end in every single matchup of the season, even with the roller coaster ride that has been the Jacksonville Jaguars offense this season. Seems like Evan Ingram has came out of that unscathed, right? Calvin Ridley has been a victim, just having shit games, right? We've seen Zay Jones light it up week 1 and then be silent like the night where Santa Claus comes, right? Christian Kirk had his shit outing week 1. ETN been kind of up and down. But Ingram, just a staple inside the top 7 at tight end, and has yet to score a touchdown this season. you might argue that he's due. Moving into the B tier again, these are all guys that if you got them, you have to start him. Tight end 9 in back-to-back weeks for Tyler Higbee going up against the Eagles this week. Pretty solid matchup up against the tight end again. The Eagles defense definitely was overrated going into the season. I think they will figure things out though, so I'm not here to say like, Nick, it's week 5, you're already out on the Eagles. No. I don't think the Eagles offensively or defensively have played their best game yet. I think the Eagles offense is going to keep getting better. Cooper Kupp is returning in this game. Again, might be limited, might not be. We shall see. But even so, I'm still starting Higbee. Another guy that's due to score tight end, 0 touchdowns on to score touchdowns, 0 touchdowns on the season. Darren Waller going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Darren Waller has bet me over a fucking table this season. I was someone that was super high on Darren Waller, and Darren Waller has not performed outside that one game against the Cardinals. This week, though, again, the Dolphins defense is sorry. I hope we figure it out. I hope the Dolphins make these Giants fucking pay in this game, but I'm going to be honest with you, they won't. They won't. Until Jalen Ramsey comes back, I think he's the skeleton key of this defense. We're just fucked. So Darren Waller should be fine. At number 8, we got George Kittle-Me-Timbers of the 49ers going up against the Cowboys at home in San Fran. We talked about this in the drafting part of the offseason, and we've talked about it all season so far. George Kittle is boom or bust. The definition of it, you look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, George Kittle shows up. Tight end 26, 32, 3, and 45. His good games, they're great. Like Tony the Tiger, his bad games are bad. We're talking about 2 or 3 points. But you can't ever sit him because you know the upside prevalent in the second you sit him, right? A tough matchup against Dallas. You sit him, the guy goes fucking nuclear. Dallas Goedert, speaking of Dallas, going up against the Rams in LA. Goddard's been a big disappointment this season. He was one of the tight ends that I was avoiding in a lot of drafts because he kind of felt just like wrapping a condom around your team, pretty safe every week. But he's even been worse than my expectations because he hasn't even been safe. He's yet to finish inside the top 12 at tight end. Currently the tight end 30 in PPR on the season. It feels like eventually things are going to go right for him. But again, if you have Dallas Goedert, I get why you would be nervous. Moving now to the C tier at number 10, we got Jake Ferguson of the Cowboys going up against the 49ers in San Fran. Last week was really the first game where getting all of those targets, right? 7 targets in 3 or 4 games, where it really paid off, right? Tight end 12, 11, and 4 in the last 3 games, but last week he saw his most receiving yards, only has 1 touchdown on the season. Again, am I screaming to the mountaintops, excited to play Jake Ferguson this week? No, because against the Niners, a lot worse options than Jake Ferguson, even in a tougher matchup. At number 11, Zach Ertz going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Tight end 12, 7, 40, and 10 over the last 4 games. Again, it might feel gross that you're starting old man Zach Ertz in the year 2023. It feels gross to start players on the Arizona Cardinals, but Josh Dobbs has looked great. Zach Ertz has looked good, so we're going to continue to start him. Moving now to the D tier, we got tight ends 12 through 16. At number 12, we got Hunter Henry going up against the Saints. I know the matchup isn't great. It's pretty middle of the road up against tight ends, but Mac Jones just has a love affair for Hunter Henry. I know it's been a downward spiral over the last 2 games, but he's still gotten 5 targets in each of the last 2 games. And finding 5 targets at the tight end position is kind of hard to come by, if we're being honest with you. At number 13, we got Luke Musgrave going up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Viva Las Vegas. Last week, he gets concussed, exits early up against the Lions. But before that, he had 8, 3, and 4 targets over the first 3 games of his NFL career. Great matchup against the Raiders. You can definitely find pay dirt in this one, which has me ranking him this high. And again, he has been very efficient, and he runs a lot of snaps. At number 14, we have Dalton Kincaid going up against the Jags. Dalton Kincaid is yet to crack the top 12 at the tight end position. Solid matchup against the Jaguars. The problem is they also have Dawson Knox, and that definitely hurts the upside of Kincaid. And Knox doesn't, based on his contract, he's not just leaving anytime soon. And again, based on the contract, they're not just going to magically phase him out of the games. So Kincaid's upside hinges on a touchdown, which he hasn't scored this season. At number 15, we got Kyle Pitts going up against the Texans. Kyle Pitts, look, he's open all the time. If you watch don't watch the All-22, but if you watch the All-22, I've seen all these clips on Twitter, this guy's always open. He's like 7-Eleven, right? Always open. The problem is Desmond Ridder is fucking blind. Desmond Ridder is Desmond Ridder is awful. He fucking sucks. He can't get the ball to Pitts even when he's open. And even when they're throwing the ball a bunch, it doesn't really help. Again, I love Pitts. I think he's a talented player, but we can't rank him highly because the quarterback sucks. Hopefully they pivot to Heineke soon to close things out in the D tier. Tight end 16, Dalton Schultz going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Tight end 6 last week against the Steelers. I don't think he's going to repeat this up against the Falcons that have been pretty solid against the tight end all year long. But again, the Texans offense has been so good that there is reason to believe in the upside moving into the E tier. This is where things start to get really gross, right? If you're starting these guys, it's bad news bears. Tight end number 17, Tyler Conklin going up against the Broncos in Denver. Great matchup on paper. Amazing. But again, can Zach Wilson repeat his success from last week and play even better against the Broncos? Now, he should be able to, but the question is, will he be able to? Again, he hasn't really shown that in his career, that he's able to put back-to-back games together. Tight end number 18, my boy Durham Smythe. The Giants are a disaster against the tight end. Smythe, though, would be lucky to see 5 targets in this game. They just brought in Chase Claypool, who I think is going to hurt the upside of Smythe because he's a bigger-bodied wide receiver. That's my take on Smythe. Again, I don't think that Chase Claypool is going to play that big of a factor this week since he just showed up yesterday. I'd be shocked if he was even really active, if I'm being honest with you. So the upside's still here for Smythe this week, but going forward, it's kind of gone. At number 19, we got Jonnu. Jonnu Smith is outscoring Kyle Pitts this season. Jonnu Smith is the tight end 12, and he was the tight end 3 last week. Make sense. Number 20, Hayden Hurst going up against the Lions in Detroit. Had one great game week 1, pulled the wool over eyes, had us all thinking, oh my God, Hayden Hurst is back. And then tight end 2, 35, 46, and 47. Bad matchup against the Lions. And now we get into, like, if you're starting these guys, look, you are fucked if you had to start those other guys. You are really fucked if you're starting these guys. Chig Okonkwo going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. Look, he's looked good all season. The problem is he's never going to see more than 4 or 5 targets in any given game. They run the ball too much for Chig to be successful. Tight end 22, Dawson Knox, one time if you are with me. He scored this season. Kincaid hasn't, but his targets are lower than Kincaid on a week-in, week-out standpoint. Maybe you get a little lucky and he scores in London. Number 23, Kylen Granson going up against the Titans. Great first 2 weeks of the season, down last couple of weeks. Still getting the targets. Hasn't really made much of it, though. Again, I'm not fully out on Kylen Granson, but are you really going to start him? Tight end 24, Taysom Hill. That's how you know things are bad when Taysom Hill's inside the top 24. This is a guy where you start him and you're just praying that he throws a touchdown or runs in some touchdown. He is the definition of a firecracker you throw into your lineup. He's either getting you 0 to 3 points or he's getting you 25 points. There's no in between for Taysom Hill. There's no 12, 14 performance for Hill. No, this man is either shoving his cock down the throat of the defense or doing absolutely nothing. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as hitting that like button down below. If you want to check me out on Patreon, make sure you do so. Link in the video description for my rankings every single week, as well as an answer to any of the questions you guys may have. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.